I started a business 10 years ago now, and I have literally never regretted it. This was something I realized the other day, and it made me start thinking a lot about the version of me that was scared to start my business and that had a lot of these hesitations. And despite however the journeys looked along the way, I have literally never once been like, man, I really wish I didn't start my own business. I want to talk about the things that I really wish someone had told me and the things that I wish I knew when I was going into it. If I could pinpoint one tangible thing that I think holds a lot of people back, is this idea that there's a perfect time or a perfect idea. And we really have to find the thing that we could, excel at out the gate and that's really going to take off. And it's just simply not true. I'd almost compare it to if you were somebody who's never really been into fitness and then you decide, okay, I'm gonna try out some different sports or some different workouts and see what I like. You wouldn't be like, I'm getting into fitness and this first thing I try absolutely has to be the thing that I love and that works out for me. You'd probably be more open to trying a few different things and seeing where you land. Maybe from the first thing, you learn a few lessons that you take into the next. For example, if you start with just body weight workouts, maybe you have decent squat form that you're going to take into your barbell workouts. So there's truly no need to find the perfect idea. And what happens when you let go of that notion is that you actually just start taking that messy action. And that's the most important part. I started in an e-commerce business and now I do coaching, content creation, courses. That first business taught me so much of the transferable skills that I now use in my other businesses. And also it felt like the next businesses could grow exponentially faster and more efficiently because of the lessons we learned in the first one. I just think people put this crazy pressure. Anything career related is so tied to our identity that it feels embarrassing to start an idea and have it not work out or decide that maybe we don't even enjoy it. When really it's not embarrassing at all. You're just experimenting literally like a scientist. He wouldn't try one thing and be embarrassed it failed. Like it's part of his job description that it's gonna fail and that he's gonna keep persevering until he can figure it out. So you just have to look at it as the same way. If you do really wanna start a business, but you're stuck on that perfect idea phase, I do have a business idea generator that I'll link that just gives you some worksheets to honestly work through what idea you should start with and just run with, because you just got to pick one. So there's going to give you a little guidance of how to pick it. So if you do want that, I have it for free linked below. There's also no perfect time to start. And yes, there can be crazy things happening in your life. I think that's less of what holds us back. It's usually more thinking about, I don't know enough. I don't have all the answers to start a business. And I hate to break it to you. I kind of love to, but you're never going to have all the answers. This is going to be a problem that keeps coming up in your business, but it just no longer feels like a problem once you get started. It's just part of the natural order that if you're continuing to grow at each stage, you're not going to have all the answers because you've never been there before. They say what got you here won't get you there. And that's very much true in any type of growth, whether it's linear or not. It's also just simply impossible to know all the things before starting and not necessary. You have never been an accountant before, you've never been a lawyer, you've never been a business owner. So this idea that you should have all of these answers perfectly packaged of whether you should incorporate or not, how to do your taxes, that stuff will all come as you figure it out. Every time we did a launch, we learned new things and then we were able to test new things in the next launch. So for example, we learned that, just launching a water bottle or a shaker cup on its own wasn't a great idea because people had to pay so much for shipping that maybe they weren't ordering. So we decided that, okay, the next time we do a launch, we're going to launch more products at one time. Okay, now we're seeing the orders go up. Okay, now we're gonna do free shipping. If our average orders are $70, we're gonna do free shipping for orders over $100. Then your order size goes up, right? So you can really see how you learn at each thing that you do, and you don't know what you don't know. There's so many things that maybe our accountants have brought up where they're like, are you doing this? I'm like, no, what's that? That you're just going to learn along the way. I like to say you're further from jail than you think, because I think sometimes we go, well, I need to know these answers at least because these ones are really serious because it has to do with legal and accounting and taxes. But honestly, you could make 100 mistakes and not end up in jail. And that applies to any part of your business, whether it's the sales, the marketing, the back end. That's how you're going to learn, is just constantly learning that okay, maybe I wasn't doing that the best way, and then adapting, but at least we are inching forward every time. And your network will grow as you grow. So you will find those accountants or those lawyers that you can either candidly ask questions to, or you'll find like your own little team that does support you and helps you with those things. So then you realize you don't actually have to know as much about those categories as you thought you maybe did at the time. You know, I heard a quote recently that I really liked, and it said that ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. And I think that is so true. You're never going to hit this point where like lights go off and you realize, ding, 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 you're ready. Okay, enter these doors into entrepreneurship. Same with anything in life. Ready is always just going to be a decision. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, don't be like a total idiot. And if you have absolutely no money, no credit, you're not a big risk taker, don't just go quit your job. But I do think it's important to think those things through. And then it is a decision that gets made. Doesn't mean that you just decide no matter what without any of the context clues, right? I'm looking at the context clues of like the business is making money. The job is taking a lot of my time. There's a lot of information that goes into a decision. Once you actually go for it and start, it is going to be a lot of hard work. I feel like there's a lot of conversation now about, you know, how easy it is to start a business, and I do believe it's easier than ever before, but I also want to acknowledge it's going to be a lot of hours, a lot of time put in figuring things out. It's not necessarily going to come naturally at the beginning. And like I said, at every stage, there's something that you find out, and that is hard work to work through. It takes a different kind of mental and energetic capacity because you are doing new things all the time, and you're often doing really creative thinking, whether you're like designing a product launch, or maybe you're building out your website, or you're learning how to use an email platform, you're coming up with social content. It's all a lot of pieces that take a different kind of energy. And I don't say that to scare people off from it. I just want to be realistic that at the start, you're going to work really hard. But that's also when you have the most fuel and passion for it usually. So it's kind of like you can ride that adrenaline a little bit. Obviously important to still have like boundaries in place so that you can do it without burning out, because I really do think you can. But it is going to be more work. It was just straight up going to be more work. You might be doing it on the side of a 9 to 5. And then over time is when you're really going to experience a lot of the benefits of the freedom and flexibility and being able to make your own hours, and, you know, working from wherever, or taking extended breaks, or just feeling like the money comes more naturally. That will come with time. It's almost like, I hate to say you have to earn it, because it's not even about the certain amount of hours put in and then that comes. It's just your business and your entrepreneurial journey will eventually get you there. One of the things that can make that difficult is if family and friends don't really get what you're doing, and all of a sudden you're putting in all these hours, or you're just experiencing a lot of new things and you maybe don't have people to talk to. So I would definitely say find entrepreneurial friends. That was one thing for me that I really felt like I had a void and a gap for that. And then it made me kind of frustrated with the existing people in my life, because I felt like I couldn't talk to them about stuff, or I felt like they didn't want to talk about the same things, or they didn't know what to ask about my stuff. So it kind of could feel unsupportive at times. But then once I started getting more friends in entrepreneurship, I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. These people really get me. And it wasn't actually for me a matter of walking away from those earlier people. It actually meant I could appreciate my time with them, because there wasn't that same gap anymore. So what I was looking for support-wise of like that understanding came from my entrepreneurial friends. And then it allowed me to just appreciate my ability to unplug with my other friends, and that it really was a space where I could just not be talking or thinking about work and not feel like there was all this stuff happening in the back of my head, because I was actually already at ease. I feel like all of this is really reflective of how starting a business is honestly a personal development bait and switch. Like, you think you're just building a product, offering a service, and then plot twist, what you're actually doing is learning more about yourself than most people ever get the opportunity to in a lifetime. And I actually think that's one of my favorite and most underrated perks of being a business owner. And I don't think it gets talked enough about, but you get to know how you are, what it's like your faults and your weaknesses as well as your strengths, how to utilize that, what you need to recover, what you even want from life. You're constantly looking at your identity, your accomplishments, what's important to you, what success looks like, and you get to reevaluate those things all the time. And as you're going through your business, like I said, at each new level, you kind of hit these new obstacles. And often the obstacle is not necessarily just going to be like, oh, okay, our shipping carrier isn't shipping to the place we need it to. What do we do? That might be the surface level problem, but the underlying problem that you'll probably face as a bigger obstacle is maybe you are avoidant, or you're a procrastinator, or you just are catastrophic in that you take everything like it's the end of the world. And so when that shipping problem comes up, are you the person that's just going to procrastinate and then not find another option? You're just going to like avoid it? Are you going to be like, well, I'm done, like I can't do anything else? So it's really, those are the behind the scenes obstacles where you're constantly faced with those instinctive habits you have that probably appear in other places in your life. And so you get to and have to address them head on in order to work through them in your business. And then it has this really beautiful effect on the rest of your life where you're, changing those things about yourself, or you're learning those things and you're adapting. And so when it comes up in other areas of your life, you've grown as a person and you can tackle them differently too. As much as that feels like one of the most important and biggest things, it's also crazy because it just shows up in the smallest ways. Like I feel like that's actually a small example of like what entrepreneurship brings to your life. Like I feel like every opportunity I've had in my life after I started a business is all because of being a business owner. It's because it pushed me to share content online. It pushed me to get in rooms that maybe I would have been too nervous to go into, or to reach out to that person, or just put myself out there in a different way. And then obviously it's been able to like fund my travel and those kind of experiences. So there's like, it's been able to fund and fuel those personal adventures, which could even be just like having like a fun day in Toronto on a Tuesday where I decide I'm just going to go to a coffee shop. I'm probably going to do that today. Actually, it's officially our 1 year in Toronto and Josh is out of town. So I'm going to go around, I'm going to go into some shops. I'm going to get a coffee. I'm going to buy myself some flowers and just have a day with my dog. And this is something I'm able to do in the middle of the week. So obviously it changes your life in so many ways. I think those are a lot of the ones that actually you learn later. Even at the start with our first business, like we were sponsoring events and we were often going to things in person. And I think about the number of trips we took, the number of cool people we met. I've been to at least 4 weddings that were entrepreneurial connections. So I think that just shows you how much you like connect with those people in your life. But anyways, I just think it brings so much value to your life. And both in the personal development and then just the adventures and experiences that come from it. It really, really opens your eyes to there being another way of living and that's like totally okay. So obviously you end up learning a lot about yourself and it helps you figure out how to build based on what you want. So yes, we can build based on like what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, where do we have to fill in the gap? Like that information is helpful in terms of like building your business. But what I think is really cool is the more you get to know yourself, the more you can actually choose what kind of business and how you want that business to feel. I think that's one of the biggest things I wish someone told me before starting was I saw a very linear path of what a business looks like. And we see this a lot with business owners, whether it's like, okay, I'm growing sales to this, and then I'm getting team members, maybe even office space. And these are these kind of traditional milestones in the business space, or unlocking, people talk about 10K months. And we end up chasing these things, even though we're usually people who maybe aren't going after traditional metrics of success. We end up chasing these like entrepreneurial metrics of success. I'm curious what it would have been like if someone sat me down before I started my business and said, hey, these are some of the things you should think about. Like, what do you want your business to feel like? What do you feel like you're striving towards? Is it something you think maybe you'd want to sell one day? Do you want to run it forever? Obviously, you're not going to have all those answers at the gate, but it's good to have them just started in the background where you can start thinking about it. And then when things come up in your business, where you have these moments where you have to make a decision that kind of takes your business left or right, it helps make the right decision. So it's not just based on, okay, what would be the popular decision here? Honestly, a really big example is I've seen so many business owners and even friends of mine build massive teams and then realize now I'm just like a manager at a 9 to 5 and I have all these people working under me and it's stressful and now my expenses are so high, so I have to keep going. And they've like scaled back entirely, maybe had like a VA on the side or really lean team, because they realize, oh, I actually want to be able to, have that day-to-day freedom and not be running a team. Whereas I have other friends that run like multi-7-figure businesses and they really enjoy having the team and they just enjoy being like the top of that, where they have all these people working under them and like that's really satisfying in a different way. So I just want people to realize, and what I wish someone had told me sooner, is that you can really build it on your own terms. You can make it non-linear. You can make it support you in any way you want. You can make it just replace your current income at your job. You could even make less money than your job, but you feel free and your stuff's covered. Or you could 10x your income, right? You can really build it in any way that you want, as long as you build it. No, but seriously, I think if you want to start a business, you're only doing yourself a disservice the longer you wait to just try. There's a really great photo I saw recently. Maybe I can throw it up here about, it was like this ladder. It was 2 ladders and one had like a neatly styled, one had like a neatly piled stack of wood pieces that were going to be used to like build the ladder. And the other one had the same wood pieces just like slapped on and it was all like janky. But the point being, like, messy action gets you somewhere faster than perfection because that person hadn't even started building. Whereas the other one, okay, now we can use the ladder. Will you fall a little? Maybe sometimes, but that's okay. Now, I'm not here to convince you to start a business, but I can't imagine having not started a business. Truly the best thing I have ever done for myself. The key to my financial freedom, the key to the position I'm in now, the key to the experiences I've had. I needed the push off the mountain, and I was lucky to have a co-founder and partner that's a little bit more of a jump off the cliff person. One of my favorite entrepreneurship quotes is like, entrepreneurship's like jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down. And so just accept that and lean into it and know that that's going to be part of it. And it'll be okay.